A single mother in rural Arkansas drove to Family Dollar for baby formula this morning and found federal agents shutting down the store due to a massive rodent infestation.
This isn't an isolated incident. This is America in 2025, where over 7,000 grocery and retail locations have vanished, creating the largest food access crisis in modern American history.
Tonight, you'll discover which major grocery chains are collapsing faster than small independent stores, and why some communities are now 25 miles away from their nearest supermarket. In the next 30 minutes, you'll learn the shocking truth about how billion-dollar corporations with century-old legacies are abandoning entire regions, leaving millions of Americans stranded in expanding food deserts. More critically, at exactly the 6-minute mark, we'll reveal the 3 hidden forces driving this collapse that no grocery executive wants to discuss publicly. But first, here's what makes this crisis different from anything we've seen before. The chains disappearing aren't corner stores or family businesses struggling with debts. These are household names you've trusted for decades, some operating for over 140 years, some backed by multi-billion-dollar parent companies. Right now, Kroger is closing 60 stores over 18 months. Safeway locations are shutting down with zero warning to customers who arrived to find darkened windows and locked doors. Family Dollar has closed 794 stores in under 3 years, and the most shocking part comes at minute 27, when we reveal the federal health emergency that shut down 404 additional locations instantly. Every closure creates a domino effect that reaches far beyond inconvenience. We're talking about elderly Americans on fixed incomes forced to drive 15 extra miles for prescription medications. We're talking about working families spending an additional $40 per month just on gasoline to reach the nearest affordable grocery store. But here's the question that should terrify every American family. If chains with over a century of success and billion-dollar backing are failing, what does that say about the stability of our entire food distribution system? The answer lies in a perfect storm of economic forces that most Americans don't see coming. And the most devastating revelation happens at minute 15. Let's start with the crisis that's hitting closest to home for millions of families. Number 10 on our countdown, Kroger, and why America's most trusted grocery name is quietly retreating. For 140 years, Kroger represented something sacred in American retail: reliability. This was the store where 3 generations of families shopped together, where weekly routines felt predictable and secure. But in 2025, that security is crumbling. Kroger has confirmed that 60 stores will close over the next 18 months, and the economics behind this decision reveal a terrifying truth about grocery retail. Here's the number that should shock you. Grocery stores operate on profit margins between just 1% and 3%. Think about that for a moment. A slight increase in minimum wage, a spike in diesel fuel, or a jump in refrigerated truck costs can completely wipe out a store's entire annual profit in just weeks. Right now, all of these cost pressures are hitting simultaneously. Refrigerated delivery trucks cost more to operate than many Kroger locations earn in monthly profit. But here's the twist that makes Kroger's situation uniquely dangerous. Customer loyalty has completely collapsed in ways that would have been unimaginable just 5 years ago. Middle-income families now split their shopping between Walmart for discounts, Aldi for convenience, and Costco for bulk savings. The days of one-stop grocery shopping are ending. Younger shoppers chase digital promotions over store loyalty, while older Americans on fixed incomes are reducing their visits because checkout totals keep climbing despite buying identical items. This pushes Kroger into the most dangerous position in retail: the middle. They're not the cheapest, not the fastest, not the most convenient, just stuck between competitors who excel at specific things. But the human cost extends far beyond corporate strategy. In dozens of smaller towns, Kroger isn't just a grocery store. It's the only pharmacy within 20 miles. It's the only source of fresh produce. It's the only reliable option for families who cannot afford to drive extended distances for basic necessities. When Kroger leaves, the entire rhythm of community life breaks down, and residents are forced to choose between spending more money or driving much further for food. Don't miss what's coming next, because number 9 reveals how Safeway customers are discovering store closures in the most shocking way possible. Number 9. Safeway, where customers are learning about closures by arriving for routine shopping trips and finding federal "closed permanently" signs taped to darkened windows. For decades, Safeway represented more than grocery shopping on the West Coast. It was part of the daily rhythm of life, especially for older adults who trusted familiar faces and familiar routines. That trust is being shattered in 2025. Across California, Washington, and Oregon, Safeway locations are disappearing, with zero advance warning to loyal customers. In the San Francisco Bay Area alone, 4 Safeway stores closed within 12 months. Customers arrived expecting normal shopping days, and instead found locked doors and handwritten closure notices. Here's the business reality behind these sudden closures. Safeway is owned by Albertsons, and when parent companies become financially unstable, every chain underneath feels the shockwaves. Delays in restocking have become routine. Inventory levels fluctuate unpredictably from week to week. Operating costs on the West Coast are rising faster than traditional supermarket profits can sustain. But here's the most disturbing pattern. These closures are targeting older, established neighborhoods, where residents have shopped at the same Safeway for 20 or 30 years. Imagine being 75 years old, walking into the store where you've bought groceries for 3 decades, and finding a sign that says "closed permanently," with no alternative offered. This isn't just business restructuring. This is the systematic abandonment of customer relationships that took generations to build. And the pattern extends far beyond Safeway. Number 8, Stop & Shop, where 32 locations closed in 2024, some after serving the same neighborhoods for over 40 years. Now, delivering on our promise from the beginning, here are the 3 hidden forces driving grocery store closures that no industry executive wants to discuss publicly. First force, the Great American Migration. Millions of Americans are fleeing high-tax northeastern states for zero-tax states like Florida and Texas. This isn't gradual demographic change. This is population hemorrhaging that's leaving established grocery stores with rapidly shrinking customer bases. Stop & Shop built its business model around dense, loyal customer populations in New England and the Mid-Atlantic. When those customers move to the Sun Belt, stores become economically unviable overnight. Second force, the labor cost crisis. Northeastern states have implemented aggressive minimum wage increases that grocery stores with razor-thin margins cannot absorb. When labor costs increase by 25% and profit margins hover around 2%, the mathematics become impossible. Stores must either raise prices dramatically or close entirely. Third force, the aging customer base. Stop & Shop's most loyal customers are aging out of regular grocery shopping due to mobility limitations and fixed incomes. Younger families prefer discount chains or online delivery, leaving traditional supermarkets dependent on a customer base that's literally disappearing through natural demographic changes. These 3 forces explain why some Stop & Shop locations that served communities for 4 decades closed with less than 30 days' notice. But the emotional impact on communities extends beyond mere inconvenience. Customers describe feeling like they've lost a piece of their personal history. Number 7, Giant Food, where closures reveal the most troubling pattern in American grocery retail: the systematic abandonment of low-income communities. Giant Food operates in the Washington, D.C. metropolitan area, and their closure strategy exposes a brutal truth about corporate priorities in 2025. Giant is not closing stores randomly. They're specifically shutting down locations in lower-income neighborhoods while maintaining stores in affluent suburbs. This creates a 2-tiered food access system, where zip code determines your ability to buy fresh groceries. And the implications for social equity are devastating. Low-income families lose their neighborhood grocery store and must travel to expensive suburban locations, or rely on corner stores with limited selections and higher prices. Meanwhile, affluent communities retain convenient access to well-stocked Giant Food stores, with full pharmacy services, fresh produce, and competitive pricing. Number 6, Winn-Dixie, a 100-year-old Southern institution that has sold 214 stores to Aldi and completely retreated from Florida, Alabama, and Mississippi. Winn-Dixie represented something irreplaceable in Southern culture. A family tradition where multiple generations shopped together and employees knew customers by name. The collapse of Winn-Dixie marks the end of an era where grocery shopping was a social experience, rooted in community relationships rather than pure transaction efficiency. But here's the business reality. Winn-Dixie couldn't compete with Walmart's purchasing power or Publix's customer service excellence, leaving them trapped in the middle with no clear advantage. Number 5. Fresh Market. The upscale grocery chain that's retreating from 4 entire states as the American middle class continues shrinking. Fresh Market built its business around affluent suburban families willing to pay premium prices for organic produce, artisanal products, and gourmet prepared foods. But in 2025, even upper-middle-class families are cutting grocery budgets, and Fresh Market's target demographic is disappearing faster than anyone anticipated. The chain closed 13 stores in 2023 alone and has completely exited markets where they once dominated the premium grocery segment. This retreat signals something profound. When even affluent Americans start prioritizing value over convenience, the entire grocery industry must fundamentally restructure. Number 4. Food Lion, where 15 to 20 closures since 2023 reveal the death of small-town grocery retail across rural America. Food Lion specialized in serving working-class families in smaller markets, but their withdrawal from rural communities exposes the mathematical impossibility of operating grocery stores in declining towns. Transportation costs from distribution centers to remote stores now exceed the profit potential from small populations, forcing chains to abandon rural America entirely. This creates a vicious cycle. As grocery stores close, remaining residents have fewer reasons to stay, accelerating population decline and making future retail investment even less likely. Number 3. Buy Low, which achieved the distinction of complete collapse in 2024, closing every remaining store and leaving thousands of employees jobless overnight. Buy Low's total bankruptcy represents the complete failure of traditional grocery retail in markets dominated by Walmart and other mega chains. When a grocery chain files for bankruptcy, it doesn't just affect employees and customers. It destroys supplier relationships, eliminates local tax revenue, and creates permanent food access gaps. Many communities that lost their BILO stores now have no grocery options within reasonable driving distance, forcing residents to rely on gas stations and dollar stores for food. Number 2. Piggly Wiggly, the chain that invented self-service grocery shopping in 1916, but has lost over 100 stores in the past 3 years. Piggly Wiggly's decline is particularly tragic because these stores often serve as the last remaining grocery option in small southern towns. The franchise model that allowed local ownership also created inconsistent quality and limited purchasing power, making it impossible to compete with corporate chains. For many communities, losing their Piggly Wiggly means losing not just a grocery store, but a piece of their identity that connected them to decades of family memories. But none of these closures compare to the catastrophic collapse of our number 1 chain, where a federal health emergency shut down over 400 stores instantly. Number 1. Family Dollar, where the largest food contamination crisis in modern retail history has destroyed access to affordable goods in America's poorest communities. Family Dollar's collapse in 2025 differs from every other chain on this list because it wasn't caused by slow financial decline or competitive pressure. It was caused by a health emergency so severe and unexpected that federal inspectors shut down 404 stores across multiple southern states in a single day. Here's what federal inspectors found when they entered Family Dollar's distribution center in Arkansas: a massive rodent infestation that had contaminated thousands of food products. Food packaging was chewed through, shipments were contaminated with rodent waste, and products deemed unsafe for human consumption have been distributed to stores across the region. The immediate response was unprecedented. Over 1,000 products were recalled across multiple states, marking one of the largest food safety recalls in discount retail history. But the numbers tell only part of the story. Family Dollar serves America's poorest neighborhoods, places where transportation is limited and every dollar matters desperately. Many of these communities don't have a Walmart neighborhood market. They don't have an Aldi. They barely have any local grocery store. For millions of households, Family Dollar was the closest and cheapest option for essentials like canned goods, toiletries, cleaning supplies, and school snacks. When these stores closed overnight, families didn't just lose convenient shopping. They lost their primary access to affordable necessities. The human impact is immediate and devastating. Single mothers are forced to drive 10 or 15 miles for basic items, spending precious gasoline money they don't have. Elderly Americans on fixed incomes must stretch their budgets even further to travel to more expensive stores in distant locations. Families already living one small crisis away from financial disaster find themselves with fewer choices and higher prices for everything they need. But here's the most troubling aspect of the Family Dollar collapse. It exposes the deepest vulnerabilities in America's food distribution system. We've created a system where the poorest communities have the fewest safety nets, and where one corporate disaster can eliminate an entire neighborhood's access to affordable goods overnight. This isn't just about grocery shopping. This is about basic survival in communities that have been systematically abandoned by mainstream retail. And that's why Family Dollar stands at the top of our list. Not because it's the largest chain, but because its collapse creates the largest human void. Now that you understand the individual stories behind each closure, we need to examine the broader forces that are reshaping American food access in ways most families don't recognize. Here's the revelation we promised at the beginning. These grocery store closures represent the most significant transformation of American food distribution since the creation of suburbia. We're witnessing the systematic abandonment of traditional grocery retail in favor of a two-tiered system that serves the wealthy while neglecting everyone else. Affluent communities retain access to well-stocked supermarkets with competitive prices, full-service pharmacies, and convenient locations. Meanwhile, working-class and low-income communities are increasingly served by dollar stores, gas station marts, and online delivery services that charge premium prices for basic necessities. This transformation is creating a geography of food access, where zip code determines your ability to buy healthy, affordable groceries. The economic forces driving this change are accelerating rather than slowing down. Rising labor costs, increasing transportation expenses, and intense price competition are making traditional grocery retail unsustainable. But the social consequences extend far beyond business economics. We're creating a society where basic food security depends on economic privilege and geographic location. Children in low-income neighborhoods grow up in food deserts, where fresh produce is rare and expensive, while children in affluent suburbs take grocery abundance for granted. Elderly Americans on fixed incomes face impossible choices between prescription medications and transportation costs to distant grocery stores. Working families spend an increasing percentage of their income on gasoline and time traveling to affordable food sources, reducing their ability to invest in education, savings, or family activities. The health implications are equally serious. Communities without convenient access to fresh groceries experience higher rates of diabetes, obesity, and other diet-related diseases. When your nearest source of fresh vegetables requires a 20-mile drive, processed and packaged foods become the default choice, regardless of health preferences. Don't miss the next critical section, because we're about to reveal how these closures are accelerating social and economic inequality in ways that threaten American community stability. The grocery store closures we've documented tonight reflect deeper structural changes in the American economy that most families don't see coming until they're directly affected. Traditional grocery chains operated on business models developed for a different America, one with stable communities, predictable customer loyalty, and modest but reliable profit margins. But today's America is characterized by population mobility, price-driven shopping behavior, and economic pressures that make traditional supermarket operations increasingly impossible. The winners in this transformation are massive corporations like Walmart and Amazon that can absorb losses in individual markets while building dominant market positions. Walmart can operate stores at break-even or slight losses because they make profits through supply chain efficiency and purchasing power that smaller chains cannot match. Amazon can subsidize grocery delivery through profits from their technology and logistics businesses, allowing them to undercut traditional supermarket pricing. This creates an economic environment where traditional grocery chains face competition from companies that don't need to make profits from food retail. The result is a systematic market consolidation that reduces consumer choice while concentrating food distribution power in the hands of a few megacorporations. But market consolidation creates vulnerabilities that most Americans don't recognize until they experience supply disruptions or service failures. When grocery retail becomes dominated by just a few massive players, communities lose resilience and become dependent on corporate decisions made in distant headquarters. Local grocery stores provided redundancy and competition that kept prices reasonable and service quality high. As they disappear, communities become more vulnerable to corporate exploitation. The employment consequences are equally significant. Traditional grocery stores provided entry-level jobs with opportunities for advancement within local communities. As these stores close, they're often replaced by automated systems, online delivery services, or dollar stores with minimal staffing and limited career advancement opportunities. This eliminates not just jobs, but pathways to economic mobility for workers without college degrees who previously could build careers in grocery retail management. The tax revenue implications affect entire communities. Grocery stores generate significant local sales tax revenue that funds schools, police, fire departments, and infrastructure maintenance. When multiple stores close within a community, the tax revenue loss forces local governments to cut services or raise taxes on remaining residents and businesses. This creates a downward spiral where reduced services make communities less attractive, accelerating population decline and further reducing the customer base for remaining businesses. The social fabric of communities also deteriorates when grocery stores close. These stores often serve as community gathering places where neighbors encounter each other regularly. They sponsor local sports teams, support school fundraisers, and participate in community events that build social connections and civic engagement. When grocery stores disappear, communities lose these informal social networks and civic partnerships that contribute to community cohesion and mutual support. The replacement of local grocery stores with distant big-box retailers or online shopping reduces the frequency of community interactions and weakens social bonds. But perhaps the most troubling consequence is the impact on community resilience during emergencies or natural disasters. Communities with local grocery stores can maintain food access during supply chain disruptions, weather events, or other emergencies that affect transportation networks. Communities dependent on distant retailers or online delivery become extremely vulnerable when transportation is disrupted or distribution centers experience problems. The COVID-19 pandemic provided a preview of this vulnerability when online grocery delivery became unreliable and distant stores experienced supply shortages. Communities with local grocery stores maintained better food access throughout the pandemic, while communities dependent on corporate chains face significant hardships. As climate change increases the frequency of extreme weather events and supply chain disruptions, community food resilience becomes increasingly important for public safety. Yet our current trajectory is moving in the opposite direction, creating communities that are more vulnerable and less capable of maintaining food security during crises. Don't miss our final analysis because we're about to reveal the specific strategies families can use to protect themselves against the continuing collapse of grocery retail. As grocery store closures accelerate across America, families need practical strategies to maintain food access and budget security in an increasingly challenging retail environment. The first strategy is geographic diversification. Never depend on a single grocery chain or location for your family's food security, because closures often happen without warning. Identify multiple shopping options within reasonable driving distance, including discount chains, ethnic markets, warehouse clubs, and online delivery services. Build relationships with local farmers, farm stands, and community-supported agriculture programs that can provide fresh produce regardless of corporate retail decisions. The second strategy is inventory management. Maintain larger household inventories of non-perishable essentials to reduce your dependence on frequent grocery trips. Focus on shelf-stable proteins, grains, and canned goods that provide nutritional security even when fresh grocery options become limited or expensive. Invest in proper food storage equipment, including freezers and pantry organization systems, to take advantage of bulk purchasing opportunities and seasonal pricing. The third strategy is skill development. Learn food preservation techniques like canning, dehydrating, and fermentation that allow you to extend the usability of fresh foods. Develop cooking skills that emphasize inexpensive, versatile ingredients rather than relying on processed foods that become more expensive as grocery options decline. Consider container gardening or small-scale food production that can supplement your grocery purchases with fresh vegetables and herbs. The fourth strategy is community building. Connect with neighbors, local organizations, and community groups that can share resources and information about food access opportunities. Participate in or organize community buying cooperatives that can achieve bulk pricing and direct supplier relationships independent of corporate retail chains. Support local food policy initiatives and zoning decisions that protect community access to grocery retail and prevent the creation of food deserts. The fifth strategy is financial preparation. Budget for higher transportation costs and time investments as grocery shopping becomes more complex and expensive. Build emergency food funds that can sustain your family during supply disruptions, store closures, or economic hardships that affect food access. Monitor local retail trends and plan ahead for potential closures rather than waiting for official announcements that often come with minimal notice. But individual strategies can only provide limited protection against systemic changes that require community and policy responses. Communities need proactive policies that prevent the creation of food deserts and ensure that all residents have reasonable access to affordable groceries. This might include zoning requirements that mandate grocery access, public transportation systems that connect residents to food retail, or public-private partnerships that support community grocery stores. Some communities are experimenting with cooperative grocery stores, mobile food markets, and municipal grocery operations that prioritize community service over maximum profits. State and federal policies could provide tax incentives for grocery retailers that serve low-income communities, or direct subsidies that make grocery retail viable in underserved areas. But policy solutions require civic engagement and political pressure from residents who understand the connection between grocery access and community prosperity. Most Americans don't recognize grocery store closures as a serious policy issue until they're personally affected, making it difficult to build political support for preventive measures. The grocery store closures documented tonight represent more than business adjustments or market corrections. They represent a fundamental transformation of American food access. We're creating a society where food security depends on economic privilege, geographic location, and access to transportation, rather than being a basic community service. The consequences extend far beyond shopping inconvenience into public health, economic opportunity, community resilience, and social equity. As more grocery chains retreat from challenging markets, millions of Americans will face difficult choices about where to live, how to shop, and how to maintain food security for their families. The trends we've documented are accelerating rather than stabilizing, suggesting that 2025 will bring even more dramatic changes to American grocery retail. Understanding these changes now provides crucial preparation time for families and communities to develop alternative strategies before losing their current grocery access. The America emerging from this retail transformation will require different approaches to food security, community planning, and economic development. Families who adapt early to this new reality will maintain better food security and economic stability than those who wait for the changes to directly affect them. Next week, we'll examine how these same economic forces are affecting restaurant chains and food service businesses, revealing the complete picture of America's changing food landscape. You'll discover which restaurant chains are closing most rapidly, how food delivery is reshaping dining habits, and which communities are losing access to prepared food entirely. We'll analyze the hidden costs driving restaurant closures, the technology changes eliminating traditional food service jobs, and the strategies families are using to maintain dining options despite industry upheaval. Most importantly, you'll learn the specific warning signs that predict restaurant closures in your community and the steps you can take to protect your family's access to prepared food. The forces reshaping grocery retail are simultaneously transforming every aspect of America's food system in ways that will affect every family's budget, health, and daily routine. If tonight's investigation helped you understand the real scope of America's food access crisis, make sure you're prepared for the continued transformation of how Americans eat.